Have you ever heard or seen or even consumed any content related to the famous Rule 34? If you don't know or if you're curious, continue watching the video as we explore this controversial rule that is spreading more and more across the internet. Today, we're diving into somewhat intriguing territory. Have you ever heard of Rule 34? The famous internet rule that states, if something exists, there is porn of it. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. So, if you don't know what Rule 34 is, get ready for an interesting journey. And if you're already familiar, welcome back to the somewhat peculiar territory of the internet. Before we start, if you're not subscribed yet, you know what to do, right? Subscribe, hit the bell icon to not miss any content, and drop a like to support the channel. With that said, grab your mana potions, adjust your gamer chairs, because we're going to talk about how Rule 34 meets the gaming universe. Here we go. So what the heck is this Rule 34? Well, at its core, it's one of the pearls of online culture. Rule 34 is an informal rule that circulates the internet and states that if something exists, there is adult content related to it. Yes, we're talking about pornography, my friends. The idea behind it is creative, to say the least. The online community developed this rule as a kind of humorous law, and believe it or not, it applies to practically everything, from cartoons to inanimate objects. Don't ask me how we got to this point, but here we are. You can imagine anything, literally anything, and someone, somewhere, has already turned it into adult content. It's a kind of bizarre internet tradition. Rule 34 is like one of those mysteries you didn't ask to unravel, but it's there, hovering in the vastness of the web. Now that we understand what it's about, let's connect this to our beloved world of games. Are you ready? Now that we are all aware of what Rule 34 is, let's enter the world of games. Yes, my dear friends, even this universe is not immune to this peculiar rule. It may seem unbelievable, but even the most iconic and beloved game characters have not escaped Rule 34. Super Mario, Sonic, Link, they all have their more daring versions floating around in the vastness of the internet. And of course, I won't share any of that here. The question is why? Well, part of it is simply because the internet is a strange place, and fan communities like to explore the unexplored, so to speak. It's like a way to reimagine characters in unconventional ways. Of course, not everything is explicitly adult. Many times, Rule 34 finds its expression in a lighter way, such as in fan art or mods that give a more mature approach to certain games. All of this raises interesting questions about fan creativity and how they interpret these universes. It's crucial to note that despite this curious online tradition, it's essential to maintain respect for creators and the community. Sometimes, the lines between creativity and disrespect can blur, and it's important to remember that not everyone is comfortable with this type of content. Anyway, it's a peculiar part of online gaming culture, and Rule 34 reminds us of the diversity of interpretations that games can have. Now get ready to understand the cultural impact on games. Let's delve into the broader implications of this phenomenon and how it might affect the gaming industry. We have reached the deeper part of this conversation, the cultural impact of Rule 34 on games. It is fascinating and at the same time intriguing to think about how this peculiar rule can influence gaming culture. Rule 34, in a way, represents the free and unrestricted expression of online creativity. Fans appropriate game universes, exploring possibilities that are often not considered by the original creators. It is a phenomenon that highlights artistic freedom within the gaming community. However, this freedom also poses challenges. How do we balance creativity with respect for boundaries? It is a question that the gaming community constantly grapples with, and Rule 34 is just one part of this broader landscape. For game developers, Rule 34 can be both a compliment and a challenge. On one hand, it underscores the significant impact their characters have on popular culture. On the other hand, it can create uncomfortable situations when the content deviates too far from the original vision of the creators. Furthermore, it's interesting to consider how Rule 34 can indirectly influence future game narratives and designs. Do creators take into account the potential fan-generated content when developing their games? As Rule 34 continues to exist, it's crucial for the gaming community to maintain a healthy balance between creative expression and respect for creators and fellow players. The diversity of opinions is what makes our community so unique. Now, we delve into the realm of character complexity and how Rule 34 reflects and, at times, amplifies this characteristic. Games, like any form of media, often introduce us to rich and multifaceted characters. Games frequently provide us with deep narratives and characters whose stories evolve in surprising ways. As we emotionally connect to these characters, Rule 34, in turn, can explore different aspects of their personalities and relationships. It's fascinating to observe how Rule 34 can bring out the duality of character representation. On one hand, it can enrich the nuances and complexities of fictional relationships. On the other hand, it raises questions about the fine line between creative reinterpretation and mischaracterization. Additionally, Rule 34 offers us a glimpse into the psychology of characters. Fan interpretations often reveal aspects left unexplored in the original games, providing a deeper, immersive experience into virtual worlds. For game creators, the complexity of characters poses challenges. How to balance the depth of characters with the inevitable reinterpretation that occurs in Rule 34. This is a complex and relevant question in the digital age. At the end of the day, Rule 34 highlights the diversity of experiences that games offer. Each player interprets and connects with the characters in their own way, contributing to a creativity ecosystem that is truly unique. We have reached the end of this reflection on the complexity of reimagining game characters in Rule 34 and how it influences the image of a game. What do you think about how characters are reinterpreted by fans? Leave your comments and let's continue this discussion. Until the next video, gamers!